Okay, in this video, I'm going to respond to some mail that I've received. The first email I received was from a guy named John. This guy was asking me, first off, why would I ever do this? There's a lot of reasons. He's, like, hey, why don't you just use a hosting service instead of doing this all yourself? Number one is Bitcoin is more than just a data center. It is more than just a coin that can be used to purchase things that's virtual. Bitcoin is a decentralized peer-to-peer network that is freedom. Okay, number one, it's all about freedom. If you've ever been in a situation where a government has stolen your funds for no reason, if you've ever read your documents about the bank where you are a creditor of the bank instead of a depositor, if you are tired of the bank asking you questions as to why you're taking out $5,000 in cash out of the bank, and why you have to explain to them what you're going to be doing. If you've ever been stranded in the middle of the country because the bank is not open and they've turned off your card in the middle of the night because you just landed at some airport and bought a Starbucks, and now they thought it was suspicious because you're not in the area you were a couple of hours ago, and guess what? You're fucked. That's the reason why, and excuse me for my language, that's just many of the reasons why I cannot stand the banks, and I believe in Bitcoin. That is why I'm doing a lot of the things I'm doing. For instance, the being in the middle of the country, having your debit card turned off for security reasons, and it's at Saturday night at like 11:30 at night. They just closed, and guess what? They're not opening again until Monday. That's the type of stuff that's happened to me in the past. I've had to, just recently, my bank refused to allow me to take my money, not theirs, my money, and move it to another country to purchase equipment, because this particular person did not take Bitcoin, and so therefore, you know what? I told him, I said, dude, I'm not buying it. It was a large purchase, but because of the fact that my bank was giving me a hard time about this, I was just like, are you kidding me? So, and then the fact that when the next financial crisis happens, we are going to be all screwed if you have a large amount of money in the bank. Because if you read your fine print on your checking accounts and savings accounts and whatnot, it says that you're a creditor, that the money in the bank is not yours, that they have an agreement with you because of the fractional lending purposes and whatnot, that the second that you hand over that weekly check to them, it's theirs. And if they declare bankruptcy, guess what? You're screwed. Now you say, what about FDIC insurance? Well, guess what? If there's several $1 trillion on deposit, and how on earth are they going to take care of everyone? When the fact is that all the banks begin to collapse. If there's almost a quadrillion or maybe even possibly a quadrillion of derivatives on the books of these banks. They're just getting ready to explode. How is any of that ever going to be paid back? And guess what? You're not a creditor that is high priority on the list. Shareholders will get paid prior to creditors or AKA depositors. So yes, that's why I never keep large sums of money in the bank. In this particular one case, I was trying to make a purchase and the guy only wanted to do it this way. I tried to convince him to go another way. It's something that I was looking for, but thankfully I was able to find this particular thing in area where I could use Bitcoin. So, but the other thing is like, all right, for instance, if I buy my equipment from China, if I were to use the traditional banking system and China's traditional banking system, it would take me about 2.5 weeks for the money just to be released to that particular bank. And then China's going to take a couple of weeks. And then I'm going to get my equipment. Well, it's been a month. Well, if I use a Bitcoin transaction, the payment is sent and I have my equipment within 3 days. 3 days. And I could have it overnight if I wanted to, but the most economical way is 3 days. So which is better, So that's just some of the many reasons. Now, as far as hosting, okay, it's kind of like as far as if you're buying into like these hosting pools, like I can't name the top of them off of my head, but Antminer has one. There's quite a few. If you actually break down the numbers, you're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You're going to, if you were to purchase the equipment and use the equipment, and if you have a good electrical rate, and then you're going to have a payback within. For me personally, my payback on my equipment is about 6 months. So now that is because I do not buy at the retail side. Some cases my return is about 4 months, depending upon the situation. So I'm a bargain hunter, as well as I'm always looking at how I can do the things myself. Not only that, but let's say, for instance, the Antpool, whatever the name of that particular hosting company is that they have. Well, guess what? They don't ever use the highest quality parts or miners. So, for instance, I'm using S9s. They don't offer the S9. They're not going to offer the S9 until it's pretty much obsolete. And when they do, they've already extracted the value out of the S9, and basically you're renting their old used equipment that, yes, it still works, but guess what? They're deducting their electrical costs, they're deducting the overhead, all the other costs, and so it really does not make any sense whatsoever to use a hosting service. I've yet to see one that makes any type of economical sense. Of course, if I found something that was reliable and trustworthy, of course I would. See, here's the thing. You're trusting somebody else to purchase equipment, and then you're trusting that they're telling you the truth about the expenses. You're trusting that that they're not going to go out of business. And in this business, if you don't know what you're doing, you will go out of business. Especially since we're kind of at that critical point where there are going to be fewer and fewer and fewer home miners. There are going to be only really and truthfully large data centers, but now is kind of the last opportunity to get that way. And so that's one of the things that I'm doing. So As far as the the aspect of it is with multiple locations, because that's one of his questions, or somebody's questions, was why do I have multiple locations? Well, that's because if I have an ISP go down, then that one particular location is affected. If I have a power outage, that one particular location is affected. So until I get my continuous fuel cell generators that are providing 100% of my power, that's why I have multiple locations. After this location is built, I will be building with my father and I will be building a data center that is going to be about, it's going to be able to hold 3,500 S9s. And then we're also going to be currently, we're building Ethereum rigs. I currently have about 4 Ethereum rigs. I have 2 Dash rigs, and I'm looking at building several Monero rigs as well. So these are part of that as well, and so they'll be included. We're going to transition some of the buildings that we're currently using into maybe just a Ethereum rig side, or maybe we'll just use something of that nature. So yes, we are going to be growing very rapidly, and with or without any outside investment, because we know what we're doing, because we're supplementing with renewable energy, because we have the knowledge to be able to use super high efficiency air conditioning with economizing and with geothermal and with all sorts of different methods that help to reduce our overall power consumption. That's why we're able to do this and be quite profitable. Most people our size, I have a friend who's in this exact type of business in another city in the state of North Carolina, and he's much larger than me. I mean, incredibly larger than me, and he's got a 2% profit margin. Well, why? Because he's getting a great rate on his power, but he doesn't know how to do everything. My father and I, we know how to do it all. I've got the IT side covered, the engineering side covered, the electrical side covered. All of that is all completely covered by my skill base, as well as my father's skill base. And because of that, that's a large cost savings that I'm able to realize, whereas most people cannot. I'm talking to a guy now that we actually have several people who want us to consult and basically tell them, how they should be doing things. And there's a guy that I talked to last night that just, unfortunately, he's not going to be able to do this because he does not have the ability to not only maintain a system. So let's say I came and I built out a data center for him, and he just invested all this money. For him, in this particular case, because he's not able to grasp a lot of the issues that you're going to be facing, I've recommended to him that he does not do this, that he'd be better served by taking that same amount of cash, buying Bitcoin. And now, because when it's at $1,000, he's going to have a much larger return on his investment. But there are a few other people that I've talked to that they're just like, hey, I've got the IT side, I've got the electrical side, but I don't have the HVAC side, which is critical in this particular business, because if you don't get the that particular side correct, you're going to burn up all of your equipment. The lifespan of your equipment is not going to be 2+ years. It's going to be 6 months or less. I've talked to guys that they burned up their equipment and just a week because they did not understand about CFM. They did not understand about static pressure. They did not understand about all of these different things that are required to properly run the equipment. And I have that knowledge base. And so now it's also something that can be learned. For some people, I'm teaching them about these things. And that's what these videos are about, in order to make it so that everyone can do this. Because I do believe that anybody that has some skill can do this. Otherwise, I'm sure it's just fun for people to watch me. But that's some of the reasons why. Now, there are other reasons. One guy asked me, what do I think about the Chinese dominance and all that in this industry? And I think it's wonderful. Okay. Now, of course, it'd be great if we had more large pools and data centers here in the United States, and possibly I'd like to be that. But as far as the Chinese are concerned, why would they not want economic freedom just like us? We as Americans, we've had economic freedoms. Now that freedom is being eroded away as we speak. And but when you look at other countries like Russia and China and parts of that area that have been economically strangled for such a long time, why on earth would they not gravitate towards and embrace such a wonderful idea of economic freedom? That's why they would embrace it and adopt it, and actually be the largest pushers for the use of Bitcoin. That's why I am very happy that they're doing this. I love the equipment that they make. Wonderful manufacturing processes, and compared to some of the other systems that I've purchased in the past, the Antminers are amazing pieces of equipment. They're durable. They're able to they meet their standard. They are safe. They are also highly efficient. Their power supplies are much more efficient than a PSU. Even though you may get a platinum PSU, guess what? It's nothing compared to the efficiency of the APW16. If you're getting 90% versus a 94% efficiency, those percentages, when you times them by hundreds and hundreds, are huge. So that's why we do these things, and that's why I love the fact that the Chinese have gotten into this. I want every person on this planet to have this type of economic freedom. It is a right. With economic freedom comes other freedoms. Comes freedom of thought. Comes freedom of mind. Of action. Because when we have these type of freedoms, the government cannot control you because you have the opportunities. Creators can create, when they are not strangled and held back and able to obtain the items that they need to invent or to create or whatever, whereas if you don't have the option because of the lack of money, you're stuck. So as always, guys, please like this video if you like it, hit that subscribe button, and if you want to see more of this, and have a great day.